The Celestia Code, Chapter 23. Conversations, pleasant and otherwise.
If you're going to kill me now, can I ask something of you? A last request?
Chrysalis seemed startled by my question and made no reply but to cock an eyebrow at me.
Tell Celestia.
I broke off in a coughing fit and struggled to keep on my hoofs. Chrysalis smirked at me.
Tell her what? That you died bravely?
No.
I didn't shake my head for fear of making myself too dizzy to stand.
No, not that. Tell her who you really are. Tell her what happened to you. She might—
Oh, I've had enough of this nonsense,
Chrysalis snapped.
I release you from your oath. You can tell her yourself.
She pointed over my shoulder.
What?
Sparkling Repartee Sparkles, that's me. 1. I have since learned that our ambassador to Zebrica is named Sparkling Repartee. No offense or implied family connection was meant. The sand at my feet stirred and whirled in little spirals as a gentle downdraft of air pushed across it. At the edge of my vision I saw the tip of a huge, pearlescent white wing gently touch the sand on a downstroke and then draw away. I carefully turned my head and saw Princess Celestia herself, folding her wings away, looking concernedly at me as she did so. Before I could say anything, Princess Luna slammed into the ground next to her sister and snapped her wings shut. She turned just enough to glare at the changelings out of the corner of her eye and addressed them with what can be best described as a snarl. "Begone, insects!" Chrysalis returned the glare through slitted eyes and raised her wings.
No, wait!
I gasped.
It's okay, really. They aren't all that bad.
Celestia and Luna gave each other worried looks, and then Celestia asked me gently, "Did you hit your head, Twilight?"
No, well, yes. I think I hit my everything.
Celestia's horn began to glow, and a magical aura the color of afternoon sunshine washed over me. I instantly felt much better, but also quite sleepy.
Wait,
I mumbled.
Jigsaw and Sassy, they're still in the cave.
Sassy?
Chrysalis asked, slightly bemused.
The changeling I know would kill anyone who referred to her that way.
Things change,
I said, and then yawned hugely.
Where is this cave?
Luna asked.
I will rescue them.
General Cherie,
Chrysalis ordered with a sigh in her voice.
Show the princess to the cave.
My study buddy must have gotten a promotion. I was going to congratulate her, but the horizon went all wobbly and my eyelids became too heavy to hold open. Celestia lifted me up in her magic, cradling me as she hadn't done since I was a little filly. It was nice. When I woke up again, there were dancing suns overhead. A gentle breeze made the silk fabric of the pavilion slowly ripple, moving the decorative border in long waves. I looked carefully at the arrays, but they were all symmetrical. No hidden secrets then.
Those suns are boring,
I said. Indeed, Luna said from my bedside. I find that moons are much more interesting. I looked around. I was in one of Celestia's big field pavilions. It was sparsely furnished but richly decorated. Light linen curtains divided the space I was in into a sleeping area but were pulled back to allow the breeze in. There was no pony else present.
Where are we?
Sometimes the most obvious questions are the best ones to ask. Still in the desert city. Luna put her book down and gently brushed me with her magic the way a Pegasus or Earth pony mother might hold a hoof to a sick foal's brow. You have healed well, I think.
Where is every pony else?
Sister and the Bug Queen are holding council, Luna replied with obvious disapproval in her voice. Your friends are likely exploring what's left of the city or each other. That is all they have done besides taking their turns at your bedside these last 3 days. A wave of panic rippled over me as Luna's words set in. How much had I missed? Yes, 3 days, Twilight Sparkle. You needed the time to let the healing magic work. We have brought some of the household gods and traveling things to make it comfortable during your recovery."
"Chrysalis is talking with Celestia?"
I asked.
"That's good news."
Luna gave a non-committal grunt and asked, "Jigsaw's companion, she was truly one of those parasites?"
"Definitely,"
I assured her. "She is now wholly a pony, by any measure, sight, touch, or magic. 'Tis passing strange."
"I soos,"
I replied, grinning.
"Ah,"
said Luna. "Mockery, you are feeling better." I grinned fondly before realizing exactly how much I owed the mare in front of me.
"You saved me, Luna. I want to thank you for that."
She waved the gratitude away with an errant flick of her hoof. "I think the insect would not have slain you, even if we had not arrived when we did."
"That's not what I meant. But how did you know to come charging to the rescue?"
"We felt it, Twilight Sparkle. When you unleashed wild magic, every unicorn in Equestria took note." Oh great, I'd perturbed the entire kingdom. Again. I hoped that no unicorns had been lifting anything heavy or fragile when the magical pulse hit them.
"Well, if not for the dream you sent me, I wouldn't have been able to deal with the dark crystal. The armor idea is what did it."
"Yes, that." Luna paused to collect herself, which was very unlike her. "That was not I. Nor was it wholly a creation of your own mind, as I first thought. It was truly her who trod your dreams."
The nightmare?"
Luna gave me a sickly smile and replied, "I soos." I suppose it was her attempt to lighten the moment. It didn't work.
What did she want?"
"I do not know, and that troubles me. She has done well by you, but hers is not a generous spirit. It will have been but one small move in an invisible game of that, we may be sure."
"What can I do about it?"
"Be on your guard. She is weakened and holds little power even in your dreams, but she is dangerous nonetheless. The game against her will be a long one, I fear."
"Why can't life ever be simple?"
I groused. "Why then it would be boring, Twilight Sparkle." Luna leapt to her hoofs. "Arise, slug-a-bed. Let us go rescue dear sister from the clutches of the Bug Queen's dread conversation."
"Will there be cake?"
I asked as I stood and stretched my still slightly sore limbs. "Hast thou ever known a royal council to lack confections? Celestia's yacht Sunbeam arrived yesterday evening, fully supplied. There is cake of 3 kinds and cool lemonade and cider besides." I grinned.
This trip is starting to look up.
It turned out that I didn't have to do all that much explaining to the royal sisters. Jigsaw had kept copious notes about our adventure, and Chrysalis, Cherie, and Cecil Russia were very forthcoming about their parts in it all. Very forthcoming. I was glad to have been unconscious while they related the whole thing in excruciating detail. I was put through a thorough exam by the doctor who was a specialist in magical maladies aboard the royal yacht Sunbeam, which was holding station above the city. I was pronounced perfectly healthy but abnormal in some regards. When I pressed the doctor for more specifics, she shook her head.
"All alicorns are unique, and I'm assuming that your structural differences are just something to be expected. For a pony who did a head plant from 3,000 feet up, you are in ridiculously good shape."
I still made her give me copies of my x-rays. I couldn't make out what was odd about them, but maybe with a little research. Well, that was something for another day. From Sunbeam's promenade deck, the city lay beneath me like a model. A model that some malignant little colt with a love of war stories had been abusing. The northeast quarter was a slumped mass of congealed black lava. The heat waves in the air above it indicated it still hadn't shed all the heat that had gone into melting it in the first place. To the west, a huge section was simply sliced away. A razor-clean cut had dropped buildings, mesa and all, down into the canyon below. Of the part that was left, which was less than a third of the original city in my estimation, not much was in very good shape. The buildings that were near where the cornucopia had been were scorched and shattered. I didn't remember any sort of explosion going off there, so that was a bit of a mystery. As for the cornucopia and cavern, Celestia and Luna had sealed it under a black glass dome and containment spell. The cave itself was far too contaminated to cleanse. It could only be isolated.
"Hey, Twilight!"
came a soft voice from behind me. "You're even harder on ancient sites than old daring Dodo." I grinned and turned to see Jigsaw and Sasarasha approaching around the curve of the airship's hull. Jigsaw had a many-pocketed vest and saddlebags on, and Sassy wore a light summer robe that was a surprisingly feminine choice of clothing for her. It certainly showed off her legs, though.
"Hello, girls,"
I greeted them.
"Been enjoying yourselves?"
Jigsaw grinned shamelessly.
"Yep, we sure have. Even so, I'm ready to go home.
You haven't left much in the way of non-rubble for us to explore, and I'm looking forward to showing Sassy around Canterlot."
"You know,"
I said thoughtfully,
"you've never told me what it is you've got against Daring Do. It can't just be her propensity for property damage, and how is it that you know about her pen name?"
Jigsaw scowled.
"Oh, that."
"Yes," I replied, giving her a look that told her I wasn't going to let her dodge the question this time.
"That."
She sighed.
A.K. Yearling was my thesis advisor. Her nom de guerre was sort of an open secret in the department.
There was a long pause.
"Go on."
"Well, this was just before the return of Princess Luna, and old Doodoo was pretty much instrumental in the choosing of my topic for my thesis." Another long pause. I raised an eyebrow. 2. Luna would have been proud of me.
Okay,
Jigsaw snapped and spit the rest all out in a rush. The title of my thesis was The Lunar Legend, an equinomorphic personification of adolescent jealousy, and it was published by the University Press just 1 week before Luna came back and made me look like a complete idiot, and Professor Yearling thought it would be a hilarious prank to send a copy to the princess. I tried not to laugh. In Celestia's name, I really did. Sassy gave me a death glare, and I thought for a moment that Jigsaw might actually explode. And all that was before Luna spoke up from behind them both.
"Jigsaw, I thought that name sounded familiar."
I stopped Jigsaw from flinging herself over the railing, and we all went into the yacht's saloon, and every pony calmed down with frosty glasses of fruit juice, though Jigsaw was still practically glowing with embarrassment. Luna dismissed the whole thing with a flick of her hoof. "I never actually read it," she explained. "Twilight Sparkle is a scholar, not I. My secretary Shadowquill mentioned it to me as a curiosity. I told her to burn it and— forgive me, Jigsaw, but do you recall having any particularly bad dreams around that time?"
"After I found out what Do had done? Well, of course, Your Highness. It's understandable. I was pretty upset about the whole thing."
"Oh." Luna cleared her throat nervously.
"Well, let us consider the matter resolved and forgotten, shall we?" "Of course, Princess. That's very generous of you."
"Not at all. Would you care for more—" Luna broke off and turned to me.
"And just what are you snickering at, Twilight Sparkle?"
"I don't like you, Sparkle,"
Chrysalis said with equanimity.
"But it seems to be in the interests of my hive to cooperate with you."
We stood on the edge of the mesa, making our farewells after the signing of the formal treaty of cooperation. The others had withdrawn a ways to give the changeling queen and me a bit of privacy.
"That's fine with me, Your Majesty,"
I replied.
"As long as we have mutual respect, I think the future of our peoples will be a good one."
"Yes."
Chrysalis looked like she had bitten into something sour.
"You do have my respect, for some reason I can't quite understand. I don't like that either, but I will survive it, I suppose."
"No chance of friendship?"
It was a ridiculous question, but I had to ask.
"With you?"
She barked out a short, harsh laugh.
"As many times as we've tried to kill each other, I think that's not very likely."
Then, after a pause, she said,
"I have been talking with your friend Jigsaw, though, and she assures me that there are many ponies in Equestria who might be willing to strike up a friendship with me, some even likely to do so. I find that hard to believe."
"Ponies are very strange sometimes."
"Actually, I think that's a definite possibility. In any case, your subjects that will be openly visiting Equestria will be paving the way for enough mutual goodwill to transform you all, I hope."
"And I will be queen no longer,"
she said quietly.
"Yeah."
I rolled my eyes.
You'll be just a plain, gardenly variety, drop-dead gorgeous alicorn. Excuse me while I wipe away tears of pity.
Have I mentioned that I really don't like you, Sparkle?
Yep, but I think you really enjoy not liking me, so no pity there either, Chrissy. It was her turn to sigh and roll her eyes. We take what victories we can. If I couldn't make a frenemy would have to do. After the gear had been loaded and the passengers had all boarded the airship, everyone settled in for the journey back home. Before long, I got a chance to have a quiet conversation with Celestia in the privacy of her stateroom. Trying to describe what it felt like to be possessed by the dark energy was difficult. I gave her some of the details, but I just couldn't convey the sheer impact of it all together.
It was chaos,
I finished up lamely.
Pure chaos. Discord would have been proud of me.
Don't bet on it, sweet cheeks,
came a sarcastic voice from behind me. Oh, Sun and Moon, why had I even mentioned his name? He was holding a tall drink with an umbrella in it and a tennis racket was tucked under one of his wings for goodness knows what reason.
My brand of chaos is always fun. Yours was icky. You've got a lot to learn about chaos, Princess Twinklebutt. Call me if you need lessons. I'm in the book.
There was a snap of light and he was gone.
What book?
I wondered.
If he's messing with my library.
Celestia chuckled behind her hoof. I sighed.
I suppose he's right. I couldn't even do chaos well. Believe it or not, I was trying to organize the changelings. I gave in to my best impulses in the worst way.
Well, Celestia said, that is the way dark magic can corrupt a pony. It can be a very useful tool, but it is all too easy to rely on. When it fully takes hold, only impulse or desire is left. Sombra was nearly mindless when he returned, focused only on his need for more crystals to complete another dark magic engine. You were just as driven, but you managed to break free of the dark magic's influence. I'm very impressed and ever prouder of you, Twilight. I shuffled my hoofs. I'm always a bit embarrassed by direct praise from her.
Most of the credit goes to Cherie. I can't imagine the bravery it took to stand up to a supercharged mad alicorn. She's the one who snapped me out of it. Partially, at least. I'm really sorry about glassing so much of the desert ecosystem. I think I did even more damage to the landscapes than when I fought T-Rex.
Celestia just smiled gently at me. Oh, I don't think you have to imagine that kind of bravery at all, Twilight. I cleared my throat and tried to change the subject.
Speaking of Sombra, it's lucky for us that the city didn't send out more warriors to set up other dark outposts. He must have left the city just before Chrysalis and her swarm drained all its ponies of love.
Or just after, considering how he treated the poor crystal ponies, Celestia said quietly. Oh, trust her to put her hoof on the heart of a matter. Power untempered by love. I shuddered. It was Celestia herself who changed the subject then. She could see I was getting moody and began to entertain me with the latest gossip from the capital. We chatted happily until she had to lower the sun. When I was directed to my cabin that evening, I found that all of my expedition gear had been cleaned and neatly stowed there. I was pretty worn out and wanted to flop down on my bunk and drift off to sleep, but I couldn't help noticing my saddlebags. The inner side of each bag was scorched and the backstrap had been entirely burnt away. I quickly checked the contents but found they were mostly unharmed. Professor Sharphoof's mummified bag was very, very tempting. I decided I would just take a quick peek at the contents. The tiny amount of magical energy I used to soften and strengthen the fabric made me a little bit woozy. It was obvious I hadn't fully recovered. I began to lift up the flap, carefully separating it from the contents, but I had to pause for a huge yawn that I couldn't suppress. Just a bit more. Just a peek. The writing on the cover of the big book was still legible. Private Journal, Dr. Sharphoof. It was a good measure of my exhaustion that I didn't even consider going to work on the journal with my conservation spells. At that point I was completely unable to keep my eyes open. It would have to wait until the next day.
I fell asleep to the soothing hum of Sunbeam's engines as we flew on into the night.